Good afternoon, YouTube. Welcome to Fair Face Fail Productions today. So I'm going to do a little voiceover today. I'm going to throw up some footage of us doing some single track and riding out in Penrose, Colorado. And I wanted to do a video to kind of commemorate 1 year-ish with my beta and 1,000 miles. So on the odometer, I just rolled over 1,000 miles on the beta. Rolling over 1,000 miles is pretty cool because I do use this as my main dual sport. So many see these as just enduro bikes. And yeah, I mean, I really think we came to the YouTubes to show that betas can be real dual sports. And I ride it on or off-road. Primarily, the 1,000 miles is almost all off-road, to be honest. You know, dirt roads, trails, whatever else, and we're rolling up right on I think 54 hours or just shy of it runtime, and haven't had any problems other than my little oopsie of I knocked a side case screw loose a little bit, and so I need to replace that and stop the oil from leaking. But luckily we didn't crack the case, it doesn't look like, so that's all on me. I haven't had any failures of any kind or problems. The only things that I really did when I got the bike were go through and make sure that all of the screws, the primary screws and stuff were tightened down, as well as going through and making sure all the plugs had dielectric grease and unplugging and replugging. And after that, we haven't had any problems. So I'm pretty excited for this bike in general. We've had a great time with it. It's really made me appreciate doing single track a lot more, and that's what makes it a lot of fun. So I've already talked about we haven't had any problems with the bike, but what are some of my favorite things about it? So, and I'll go over my least favorite things about it as well. So my favorite things about the beta are, first and foremost, the suspension first, and the engine next, maybe. So the 2019 Beta 390 RRS, the stock Sachs suspension, is absolutely fantastic for dual sport riding. In fact, when it comes to being a dual sport, it's on the stiffer side of things, but you can adjust it to yourself with both preload and dampening settings, and get it to where it's comfortable for you, I think, after it's broke in. And it goes over everything. It's really adjustable. I've really kind of fallen in love with the suspension on it. I know some people don't like the Sachs, but I like it because it is softer than the KYBs. After a short stint on an RR with the upper end suspension, I was not. That's not something I'd want to be on all day, even if it is a better suspension for riding harder stuff. But overall, the suspension is fantastic. I think that's probably one of my favorite things about the beta. So next is the beta's 390 engine. It is probably my favorite engine in any dirt bike or dual sport I've ever been on. And that's not just because I bought one, but truthfully, it gives you tons of low-end grunt, and it really does chug. Like you can count the RPMs at times, and it will pull you up a hill. And I love that about this little engine. It's a very stroked motor. It has very good power. The throttle response between the two map modes of either the lower power mode or the higher power mode, it's both really good, and it really gives you a lot of control over either slipping or giving lots of power low down or needing to pick up the front wheel a little bit. I've really appreciated the power band on the 390, and I tout it as probably the best engine for trail riding. And it's not, it doesn't have a top end like a race bike by any means, and a lot of people will down talk the 390 for that reason. If you like to race or you like to push real hard, the 430 or the 500 is going to be the way to go. But if you like basic just trail riding and you're not a race guy, then chances are the 390 you'll fall in love with, and it's more than enough for the street. I know I get a lot of questions about, is the different models, is there a better engine on the street? And I find that the answer is no. Between the 350 all the way up to the 500, they're geared the same. They have the same basic transmission, essentially. Really, it comes down to, how long you're going to be on the street for. And most of the time, you're not going to be on the street for a long period of time on a dual sport anyway. But all of the bikes are limited by their gearing. They all have enough power to pass on the road or anything else. Even the 350, it's going to be way peppier than any 250 Japanese dual sport that you've ever been on. And I felt pretty comfortable on my DRZ 400 on the road and even my XT 250. So yeah, I mean, and even my old KLR 250, I was fine with the road with. But these are all in a different class, to be honest. So any of them are fine on the road up to about 70, 75 miles an hour, depending if you have the 15 or 13 tooth front sprocket. The lower gearing, yeah, 70's probably pretty buzzy on it, but it's doable in short stints. My Beta, we did a pretty long stint out in New Mexico on the road, and it really wasn't that bad. I didn't feel tapped out. We were doing like 60, 70 most of the time on the road, and we did that for like, I want to say 15 or 20 miles. Yeah, it didn't feel bad at all. Another thing I really like about the bike, stock, is the exhaust. And I know that sounds strange, but the stock exhaust on the Betas is fantastic. Like, you really find that it sounds great, it's aggressive, it's even pretty loud for especially being a street legal dual sport. And there is no reason to change the exhaust on the Betas. At least I don't see a reason to. I don't think you'd get any more power changing the whole exhaust up, or if you did, it would be very minute. But the exhaust is one of my favorite things. It sounds good. It's kind of a unique sound. I'm not going to compare it to an Aprilia, but it definitely sounds different than other dirt bikes, but it sounds aggressive and good. I think it almost has like a chugging diesel sound to it when you really get on it, and I like that. It's kind of become one of my favorite things about this bike, along with just riding it as a whole. So another thing about the Betas that I really like as well is that they come with the Trailtech Voyager. Now, I wish there was an option, and it still isn't an option even on the new ones, that they would come with the Trailtech Voyager Pro. While that costs more, it's a much, much better unit for the money. But the Trailtech Voyager is a much better dash than you'll find on pretty much any other dual sport or dirt bike out there, at least coming stock. It is something that you can buy aftermarket and slap on any bike, of course. But the fact that Beta, I think, looked at their customers and said, what would they want, what would they like, what is useful to them. I think the Trailtech Voyager is really awesome. It logs everything from GPS to your coolant to, you can do a lot of things with it, and that's nice to see from an OEM, especially when you're paying a premium price. I think it's a good start, and I think they can build on it by offering the Voyager Pro. All right, we'll move on to a few things that I dislike about the Beta, and there's not a lot of things that I dislike about the Beta, but there are always things that you can improve upon on any motorcycle, and that's okay. And some of these things on the 2019 have already been addressed, and I'll talk about that a little bit. First and foremost is the gas tank size. Now, I've said this in other videos before, and some have hated on me for it, but I'm a dual sport guy. I bought this to dual sport on. It's not a race enduro for me. I bought the RRS because it's street legal, and it's advertised as such. And Beta has other models, race editions, and the RR models, so on and so forth. So I look at this as a dual sport. And it came with a 1.9 gallon tank. I believe was the stock tank size in the 19s. Way too small. I ran out of gas when it was brand new during engine break-in, so I'll give it a little bit more, but I ran out of gas at 75 miles. And it's pretty bad gas mileage for any bike, really. So for a dual sport, 75 miles is not much, and even now that I get a little bit better gas mileage after break-in, I wouldn't have trusted the stock tank for truthfully more than 85 miles. 90 tops. That was really pushing it, and that's a small tank, and I get it for the race editions and other models where you want to save weight on fuel and you're not going that far. I get it. It makes sense. But on a dual sport, Beta should really consider putting the 3-gallon S stock on the bikes. I would love to see that. I think that's something that a lot of the dual sport community, and I think more people would look at it if it came with the 3-gallon tank. Because range is a thing for us dual sport guys. I have the 4-gallon tank on my Beta, as you guys have seen. It's a big old wide 4-gallon tank on it, and it's a real nice tank, but it's not cheap. So to think that you're going into a bike and then having to blow $400 on a gas tank, plus hours and hours of work to put it on, or pay somebody to put it on, Boy, that would be real nice if you could just slap on a 3-gallon from the factory. Another thing that I kind of dislike about the betas is the electrical system. And a lot of people have complained about it. A lot of people have got issues with it, or had some sort of issues with it. But from the factory, the wiring harnesses, the wiring in general, it feels cheap. It feels very off the shelf. A lot of the connectors are, they feel like not great quality. And some of my connectors weren't plugged in all the way from the factory or the dealership when I got it. One of mine, of course, was the fan wasn't plugged in all the way. So when you buy these, definitely go through and check all your connection points. And some of them I zip tied because they just don't snap real well. And I've gone and looked at the new models, and they haven't changed. It's really kind of the same cheapy plugs, and that makes no sense. And in fact, I kind of think there's no excuse for it on a $9,000 plus bike. So yeah, that is one thing I would love to see Beta really up the quality on. The Japanese bikes, they generally have really beefy wiring harnesses, and their connectors are good quality. They're not using crimps in places. So yeah, I would like to see Beta kind of look at that a little bit more, because I know a lot of people, I know with the 500 that Maker Extreme had connectors come loose, electrical gremlins, and yeah, it was mainly due to the poor connectors that they have on the bike. So one of the things I didn't like initially at the bike that I thought I was gonna hate, and I'll bring it up only because a lot of people do, is the stock sack suspension being pretty stiff. Now that I've had it for 1,000 miles and done a ton of off-roading with it, it's not a problem anymore. It really did soften up the suspension a lot, and I've tuned it down. I've played with the suspension quite a bit, and I'm in a happy place with how it feels now. But a lot of people didn't like how stiff the suspension was, but I wanted to mention that on the new models, they have definitely reworked the forks, especially in the rear, to track a little bit better, and I think to be a little bit softer and smoother for the RRS line. So I wanted to say that that's something that if you come across that has been completely changed for the newer models. So as is with any dual sport, the rear license plate holder that's street legal, I know that there are laws in place, and I don't know what they are, to be honest, as to how these things have to look or stick out or whatever. But the Betas has the most redonkulous thing hanging back there, and even on the new ones, it flaps around and it's terrible, and truthfully you will break it your first or second ride out if you leave the stock rear license plate holder thing with the signals. Yeah, it's terrible. It really is that bad. And I broke signals off going up Mosquito Pass, pretty much broke that entire assembly in the back of the bike off. And so one of two things, Beta, I really got to say, like, either make it stronger or do something completely different, because all of us guys that buy it as a dual sport, we chop that thing off, slap the plate up higher, and if we are going to use signals, we'll put them higher up. That's kind of really what we end up doing, and I don't know if there's a way to streamline that or make it better for your customers, but that would be great. That's another gripe that I have. So overall, for 1,000 miles of my impressions on the Beta, I love the bike. I haven't found many faults with it. It's not perfect, but the thing that I love about Beta is that they fix their stuff as they go. They listen to their customers. They make updates. They change their models around, and I think they genuinely do care about their customers more than other companies. It's not like a DRZ where it's been the same bike for 20 years plus, and they could care less what their customers think. They just want money on the same design that they've had forever, and that's truthfully not Beta. And you pay a premium for it, but you know, if you can get a new Beta for a couple $1,000s more than a new DRZ, I think it pays for itself. Honestly, you'll be much happier with the bike in the long run. Overall, riding it all over, from dual sporting long distances to dropping this thing all over the place. Given that the first time that I really broke the bike was in some harder single track, and you know, I was just having not such a great day. It's been reliable. It's done really well. I've bent radiators and haven't had problems, and those things are my fault, but it's been a good bike. Let me know if you're looking at Beta yourself, and let me know what you think of the Betas, and if you've had any problems with yours, or what you think long-term with your older Betas, say some people from the early fuel injection models. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed watching the riding footage while I was yammering on about my 1,000 miles on the Beta, and I'll catch you all next time. Ferret Face out.